Hello friends and welcome. Katie here. Thanks so much for stopping by. I am back with another project for Imagine Crafts, and today I've got a very simple Mother's Day card. We're using some unlikely VersaFine Clair colors to ink blend, and I'm going to use the silhouette stamp from the Greetery to do my stamping. So colors we're using, we've got Warm Breeze, Paradise, Bluebell, Golden Meadow of all things, and Shady Lane. So we're going to start off with the Golden Meadow. I've got some hot press watercolor paper. I really prefer that to ink blending, especially if you're a beginner and you struggle with ink blending. Hot press watercolor paper is fantastic and it blends really well. It's very forgiving. These are pigment inks, so of course they're going to stay wet longer. It allows you to really work that ink onto the paper. The thing to remember with watercolor paper, just make sure it's 100% cotton. The student grades are okay, but you're going to get the best results if you use 100% cotton. And a lot of people know Arches. There's a lot of them out there. But this actually is the Strathmore 500 series. You can pick it up at Amazon. There's a couple places like Blick that you can get it from. But it's very affordable and it's a really good quality watercolor paper to ink blend on. So you saw how I faded up the Golden Meadow. It's pretty strong there at the bottom, but the yellow payoff that you get as you fade it off will produce the most beautiful green when it's mixed with Warm Breeze. So that's what I'm putting on now. And I'm not trying to get straight lines. So I'm kind of, I like to do figure eights when I'm ink blending because it really does blend the colors nicely together. And, I go up and down and swirl it all over the place. That's the one thing that's great about watercolor paper. And you can use cold press too. The only difference is cold press is going to have more texture to it, whereas the hot press is totally smooth. But it blends really nice. So now we're going to come in with Paradise. Now, Paradise and Warm Breeze are pretty similar in their color payoff when they blend. And so this actually is just deepening up that Warm Breeze, which is really nice. And I bring it all down into that yellow so that I can get a nice transition of greens and blues in the yellow. So I do go back and forth, and I always say in my ink blending videos that they're marathons, not sprints. It does take a little bit of time, but the payoff is well worth it. Now, and I'd say this panel took me about 15 minutes. It's not like it takes hours to do this, but there is a little bit of time that goes into it. So now I'm going to come in with Bluebell, and that's just up at the edge, bringing it around the corner a little bit to deepen up those blues. And I'll tell you, I am loving the way that these colors turned out together. So it's, sometimes it's the unlikely colors that you put together that look the best. So once I get this blended together and I get it the way that I want, I will work on the bottom part and bring in the Shady Lane, which, is a pretty olive green. And, I was kind of in a slump. I, wasn't sure what to do for a Mother's Day card this year. And so I always go back to the techniques that I love the most. And ink blending is one of those techniques. So if you're ever struggling with what to do, start with what you love and, even do some Google searches and stuff and get some inspiration and then use supplies that you have to maybe try to recreate something that you've seen. But so now we're on to Shady Lane, and I'm just keeping it at the bottom. I just kind of want a smoky look at the bottom. And again, the Shady Lane blends really well with the Golden Meadow. And so I'm trying to be careful that I don't bring this up too much in the yellow, because I do want to keep that yellow. I want to keep the transition of color between the yellow, the greens, and the blues when I do my ink blending. And again, this looks pretty splotchy, but it will dry back once it absorbs into that paper. So now we got the Misty out. We're going to do our silhouette stamping. I'm just using Nocturne VersaFine Clair ink. I do have to ink this up a couple of times. I think I actually might need to get a re-inker for this pad. But I did stamp this 2 to 3 times to get a good solid impression. And this you could actually do with, you know, like a dark purple. I'm trying to think of, I want to say Monarch you could do this with, but I just stuck with the black. But that would look really pretty too, if you changed up the black ink for something else. Now, I didn't want to clean my stamp, and I was going to use it one more time, so I just pulled out some acetate and putting it where I want it, and that way I won't get, if I get it somewhere I don't want it to be, I won't ruin the panel. So the acetate there helped to get my stamp where I wanted it to be. Ink that up a couple times, and then I'll move on to, I debated because I kind of wanted to have a trio of this particular stamp, but it just wouldn't fit the way that I wanted to on that right side. So I just went with the smaller floral silhouette that was in there. And then I'll line that up, stamp that a couple times, and there's a small little sprig that's in there, and I'll hand stamp to fill in the space that's on the bottom. But overall, I really, for, you know, clean and simple card, I was really pleased with it. And you could spritz some sheer shimmer spray on there in the sparkle if you wanted to have a little shimmer. I didn't, but that would look really pretty too, to give it a little sparkle. And of course you could do splatters and things like that, but I just wanted the ink colors to shine through because I was really impressed with this color combination for blending. Okay, so Happy Mother's Day stamp that comes from a Simon Says stamp set, the Incredible Woman stamp set, and Nocturne ink. I did just use a die cut, you know, Spellbinder's die, to cut that sentiment strip so that it was perfect, you know, in stamping that. On point glue, going to trim that off. So this, I mean, it's not a 1 layer technically, but pretty close. It's pretty flat considering. And on an A2 size card base. That's going to wrap it up, my friends. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Be sure and check the description box below for the products used, and I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next video.